So here is the Jacob scarab, one of the 27 that have been found. There have been others, but you'll see these letters that you see here on the side. This is this part here represents like a Y or a J sound to us. So we have that J, and then there's the C sound, and then the B sound. So remember, there's no vowels. It's Jacob. But then the symbols down below, right here, this one right there, and the one just below it, are the letters HR, meaning Har. Har is what we have in the Semitic languages, meaning an elevated position, like a mountain or a high position. And that's why many people, many scholars believe this is referring to the Jacob that you find in the Bible, one of the patriarchs that we have.
In Exodus 15, it says, "Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms, and they camped there beside the waters." And you can see in this video, this place has been found. This very place that it talks about has been found, and it supports the biblical text. To this day, there are many palm trees and exactly 12 wells here. This would have provided water and met all the needs of the Israelites. Here you can see this area with the palm trees and some of the wells. The Saudi locals in the area point out that this is Elim and has been known by this name as long as they can remember. Here matches perfectly the biblical account of this event. Near the altar of Moses and the 12 pillars, Moses read to the Israelites the Book of the Covenant, and they agreed to it. This means that Moses probably had a spot right above the altar that served as a stage to address the Israelites. Now, just above the altar of Moses is a large platform from where Moses could have easily spoken to the Israelites when the covenant was made. It provides a natural place from which to speak, and the Saudi locals talk about how sound travels here like a natural amphitheater. Another fascinating discovery at the base of this mountain is the altar upon which Aaron set the golden calf, and all Israel worshiped before it. On the top of these rocks is the main rock that shows a flat spot where the golden calf might have been placed for all Israel to see. Below the rocks is where Aaron would have made an altar to this golden calf. Now, Exodus 32 provides all the details. It says, "Now when the people saw that Moses delayed in coming down from the mountain, the people assembled about Aaron and said to him, 'Come, make us a god who will go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him.' Aaron said to them, 'Tear off the gold rings which are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me.' Then all the people tore off the gold rings which were on their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he took this from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made it into a golden calf, or a molten calf. And they said, 'This is your God, O Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt.' Now when Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it." So Moses was on top of Mount Sinai for 40 days, and this event happened while Moses was away. Now, interestingly, this golden calf was a representation of the Egyptian false god Hathor. It was one of Egypt's main gods. You can see images of this false god that look very similar to the paintings on these rocks here. There are also many other inscriptions on these rocks as well. Now, worship of this false god Hathor consisted of dancing, drums, and sexual promiscuity, and this is exactly what the Israelites were doing while Moses was away. This altar, interestingly, is fenced and gated like other archaeological sites at the base of this mountain by the Saudi government. However, over the past several years, the Saudi government has opened up these sites to tourists, and you can now go there easily and see these places for yourself. Additionally, many artifacts and discoveries have been found in this area that give great evidence that this mountain is indeed
Soleb inscription. Now, at the end of the 15th century BC, the Egyptian pharaoh Amenhotep III built a temple to honor the god Amun-Ra at Soleb in Nubia. That's modern-day Sudan, and he left a record of the territories that he claims to have conquered. And one of them on this name ring is a place called the Land of the Shasu, or the Nomads of Yahweh. And based on the context of where it is, we know that this would have been in the Canaanite region. And the prisoner that's associated with it is a Semitic-looking prisoner. And this is really interesting. What it means is that around 1400 BC, the Egyptian pharaoh already knew about the god Yahweh and claims to have gone into Canaan and found a group of people who he called the Nomads of Yahweh, and claims to have conquered them. Now, we now have Israel. There was another Egyptian inscription that we believe mentions Israel by name. It's called the Berlin Pedestal. It's housed in the Egyptian Museum in Berlin, and it almost certainly refers to Israel as a nation in Canaan. It has 3 name rings. The first 2 are very clear. They read Ashkelon and Canaan, and the third can be reconstructed to read Israel. And so if you look at it, you have these 3 places in Canaan, and the only one that makes sense for Israel is Israel, even though it's pronounced with an SH. And it was recently re-examined by 3 scholars, Peter van der Veen, Christopher Thies, and Manfred Grog, and they noticed that Ashkelon and Canaan were written in a way that's consistent with a 15th century writing, not a 13th century writing. And so if this is true, and if this mentions Israel, again, it testifies to a 15th century Exodus date, because we now have Israel.